Take my hands. Close your eyes. Now feel.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll look at a painful divorce story about a man who spent 10 years married to a woman and raised her son for 11 years after meeting her, abandoned by Chad, when he was just 21. His mother had warned him, "Don't marry single mothers." After a decade of sacrifice, she now says he was never a good father and that she never wanted to give a child to this beta provider. A frustrating, tough story full of lessons many men need to hear. Without further ado, let's begin.
I went through my husband's phone and now I'm divorcing him. And this is part 2 of how he reacted when I came downstairs with his phone. First of all, I want to say the commitment from people for this side of the story, I just find really interesting. The fact that people care so much about my story, I just find really interesting. I didn't really think anyone would care about this. So here we go. I would not consider myself a very calm person. When I get angry, calm is not the way that I tend to deal with things. But in this situation, for some reason, I felt very, very calm when I went downstairs to confront him about his phone. I gave him his phone very peacefully and I said, "Thank you so much." And he said, "So how mad are you right now?" I stayed very calm the whole time. I looked right at him and I said, "You know what? Not as mad as you might think." And then we kind of started to go into some things. One thing that I did not mention in my first video, because it's kind of personal, but I don't really care about putting him on blast at this point because he embarrassed me, is that my husband has been holding out on Smexy time from me for many, many months. And that's another thing that I want to address because some people in the comments assumed, oh, well, if your roommates living in separate rooms, if you were not having Smexy time with him, that no wonder he cheated. First of all, ew. Second of all, I was always open for business. Every single day, all the time, I'm always open for business. He was saying that he didn't want to because he's been having hormone issues lately. So we have not been doing that. And when I went through his phone, I found that he was watching porn every single day. So from my experience, he has always done this thing where when he gets in trouble, he doesn't want to feel like he's in trouble like a little kid. So he turns into this very hurtful person, which is another reason why I'm leaving him. So when I confronted him about the corn, he laughed in my face and he said, "Oh yeah, I love corn. That's probably never going to stop." And I said, "But I have been asking you for Smexy time." And he goes, "Yeah, well, we haven't been talking. We haven't been in a good place, but I love corn." And then another jab that he gave me, I think just, again, to hurt my feelings and try to make himself feel bigger and better than me at that point, was when I brought up that, hey, I know that we've been in a bad place, but we're still married. His excuse was, "Well, listen, you haven't been talking to me. We haven't been in a good place. What do you expect? When I don't get what I need from you, I go to other women for validation." And I said, "Man, you must be really insecure if when we're not in a great place, you have to seek out validation from other women. And I feel bad for you." So again, he kind of smiled and said, "Yeah, well, you weren't talking to me and I love getting attention from other women when you don't give me what I need. So that's probably never going to end. I'm probably going to do that for forever." And listen, ladies, as I say all of this stuff out loud, I hope that you ladies get just as irritated for me as I am for myself to be treated that way by somebody that I was married to for 10 years. Nobody deserves that. It's not just me, but nobody deserves to be looked at and said, "Yeah, I know I did these things. I'm probably going to continue to do them though." So at that point, I knew it was over. He made it very clear that he didn't want to repair that at all. He didn't seem remorseful at all. So I took a deep breath, gave him a big smile, and I said, "Okay, well, let's get working on filing. I don't really know the process to that, so I need to do a little bit of research, but I'd like to get filed by next month and get all of this stuff sorted out. At this point, you are now single. you want to act like you're single and pretend that you're single, you are now single. You may see, talk to, and do whatever you want, and I am going to do the same, and let's file for divorce next month. And he said, okay. But trust me when I say this story is not over. Now, you see, my mother-in-law was due to be in town 12 hours after this discovery. So when he asked me, he said, Taylor, can you just be chill while my mom's in town? Like, she doesn't need to know anything that's going on. I said, oh no. Oh, no. I'm going to tell your mother everything. And that story, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go through tomorrow.
Stop it. Get some help.
It's concerning that studies confirm a large portion of adult content consumption, especially on platforms like the Blue app, comes from married men. The rise in this kind of consumption among married men is incredibly high. Now, let's look at the full picture. I'm not going to excuse the man for what he did, but let's consider the context. They sleep in separate rooms. They apparently barely talk. There's no intimacy, and they've been married for 10 years with no kids. She even admits their conversations don't end well. When she says, I didn't lose my temper this time. Judging by her profile, she seems like the strong, dominant type. She even describes herself as a gym coach. But look at the signs. He asks her not to tell his mother, and not only does she tell her, but she also makes a series of videos publicly trashing him. Let's keep going.
Take my hands. Close your eyes. Now feel.
Okay, so here we are. I'm going to set the scene. I just found out that my husband has been unfaithful to me, and his mother was due to come into town to visit him for his birthday 12 hours after I found out. Now, he asked me to be chill during the time that his mother was around and not say anything, and I said, oh no, I will be telling your mother absolutely everything. Here's how it went. So honestly, I thought when I gave him a heads up that I would be telling his mother everything, that he would try to beat me to the punch. He's got a long drive home from the airport to our house. So knowing that I was going to tell his mom, I kind of just assumed that he would tell her on the trip home. Well, that didn't happen. So her and I had been planning this nice dinner that we were going to celebrate his birthday, and we were all going to go, and her and I were planning it on where we were going to go. It was going to be my soon-to-be ex-husband, myself, my son, and her, and we were going to go out to dinner. So she finally gets into the house, and this dinner is supposed to happen, right? And I tell her, I say, hey, I'm going to send you and him to celebrate the birthday on your own. And she goes, why? What do you mean? Like, she was shocked, right? And I just looked over at him, and I said, oh, you didn't tell her, did you? She looks at him. He looks at me. I look at her. She looks at me. What's going on? She makes a connection. Something's not right. And I say, okay. Well, we should probably talk. And he goes, I don't really think now is the time. Like, this is not a great time. And I said, okay, we can talk later. And then for the whole rest of the weekend, I hung out with my son, my happy place, the entire weekend. And I let them go off and do what they were going to do and have mother-son time. Now, backwards a little bit. When I first found out about my husband's infidelity, the first person I called was my sister-in-law because she's like my best friend and I tell her everything. So I called her. She's pissed for me, okay? I was a little nervous to tell his family because I didn't want to feel like they would pressure me to stay and make it work with him. Well, they didn't do that. She very much had my back and she said, absolutely not. Get the heck out of there. He doesn't deserve you. And you should tell my mother everything and you should tell her when he's around and embarrass him. And I'm like, that sounds good. I'm gonna do that. I had one opportunity to talk to this woman and it was really just because she was busy with him all weekend and I was working all weekend and with my son. So I had one opportunity the morning that she was going to leave. We sat in the kitchen and grabbed a cup of coffee and I looked at her and I said, okay, are you ready to hear what's going on? And she kind of paused and she goes, yep. So I unload. I tell her everything. I leave nothing behind, no details. Even about the corn, I tell her everything. And she just sits there and listens. And let me just say, like, this woman is so kind. She's so kind and so sweet.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
You see? Now different facts come to light. Infidelity is never acceptable under any circumstances. I believe that if a relationship isn't working, you should just leave. But it's clear this man felt alone and unsatisfied with this woman. A dead bedroom, no physical contact. He first turned to adult content and eventually ended up cheating on her. She, months later, starts wondering what went wrong, when in reality, she let her man fall off a cliff. One important thing to clarify: she's a single mother, and the guy is the stepfather. She never gave him a child. It seems he was the beta provider, but not the man she saw as father material. Let's keep going.
She would never hurt a fly. So it was hard to tell her because I know that she loves her son and she worries about him. And I think like ultimately the way that I felt in this conversation was that she was worried for her son based on how he was acting. Did I feel like I had her support? No. Honestly, if I'm being frank, I don't really feel like she was thinking about what I had gone through. I think she was thinking about her son, which is fine. Like that's your son. I get it. But she kind of said something really interesting to me that I kind of like, I don't know, like didn't really like. Now let's take a step back and talk about my son really quick. I have an 11-year-old son. He is not the son of my soon-to-be ex-husband. I have a baby daddy. We were never married, but my soon-to-be ex-husband and I met when my son was a year old. He has been around for my son's entire life. He has seen first words, first steps, all of the things, but unfortunately never showed up as a stepdad. He told me a little bit ago that he didn't love my son. He just never was what my son needed. And so while I've been married and with this man for 10 years, I have been a single mom. My soon-to-be ex-husband does not help me with parenting at all. Like I have parented that child by myself, and he's my son. So that is my responsibility. But my son comes above everything. My son comes before my soon-to-be ex-husband. He has always been at the forefront and the whole priority of my entire life. I take parenting him very seriously. And my soon-to-be ex-husband does not like that my son comes before him. Listen, I know this video is getting really long. I'm almost there. So the way that I felt when I told my mother-in-law about all of this is that I almost felt a little bit of like she was putting some blame on me for the reason that we've been in such a bad place. I was talking to her about the issues that my soon-to-be ex-husband was having with my son, that he told me that he didn't love him and that he resents him. And that's just for a whole nother story. Sir, you are an adult. I am not responsible for raising you anymore. That actually was my mother-in-law's job. But I take being a mother very seriously. And my son is my priority number one always, and that will never change. So when she came in and made me feel like she was questioning of whether or not I should be putting my 11-year-old son over her 33-year-old son, it just didn't feel great to me. And that's what happened. Do I need to probably have a conversation with her about how that made me feel? Yeah, but ultimately it is what it is. We are divorcing, we are separating, and my son is still going to be at the forefront, number one of my life everywhere, all the time, every single day, and that's how I'm choosing to parent him.
God damn it! You can't make this shit up!
Let's look at the facts. The guy is 33 years old and has wasted 10 years of his life with this woman. Clearly, this man's mother doesn't hold her in high regard because he met her when he was 22, meaning he raised her child when the irresponsible father didn't step up. Chad's kid. And she never gave him a child of his own. I'm 1,000% sure his mother didn't want to see her son marrying a woman with a 1-year-old just to become a stepdad. But this man did it. The resentment toward that child comes from the fact that she never gave this man a child. We're talking about 10 years with a woman who never gave him a son or daughter. Now I understand where the resentment, the adult content addiction, and the cheating come from, along with the separate bedrooms. It doesn't excuse it, but it is a symptom of someone who felt unappreciated by a woman who drained half his life.
So my husband told me that he doesn't love his stepson and that most of the time he doesn't even like him. And what do you know? Now we're getting divorced. Let's talk about parenting for one moment. My soon-to-be ex-husband and I have been together for over 10 years, and my son is 11 years old. So it's not that just a couple of years that my soon-to-be ex-husband has been around. He has seen first steps, first words, first day of kindergarten, first day of every single grade. He's seen big milestones. He's watched sporting games. He has watched this kid grow up. And my son is a really good kid. And I know that a lot of mothers say that, but I really mean it. My son has manners, please and thank you. He's very sweet. He never argues with me. He is so kind, so intelligent, and so emotionally mature. I will address people in the comments very briefly. I have some people that are saying, why would you marry someone when you knew they didn't love their kid? Oh my God, we didn't start there. Oh my gosh, we did not start there. I did not marry my husband knowing that he didn't love my son. This is a very recent issue. This is a conversation that we had on December 1st, our 10-year anniversary, when he told me that he really doesn't like my son and that he resents him for the fact that I put him first and that my son is priority to me above anything else. And you know what? That's okay, because that's never going to change. So on December 1st, when we had that conversation, that's when I knew I was done. Okay, that's when I knew I was finished. I'm like, I'm so gone. Like, you don't love this child that you have raised kind of for 10 years, this kid that you've seen grow up, this kid that is a direct reflection of me, because I have poured everything in my life into raising him properly. You're going to tell me that you don't love him and that you want me to put you, a 33-year-old man, first over raising an 11-year-old boy? Absolutely not. So on our 10-year anniversary, I told him, I said, yeah, I'm done. You need help. You need to go to therapy. And he said, okay, Taylor, let's go to therapy. Like, let's try to figure this out. And I said, great. Okay. January is your month. You have to hire the therapist, book the appointment. You know my schedule with work. Just tell me when to be there and I will be there. But this is your time to shine. If you want to repair this, then you can do all of the things for therapy. Do you think he did any of that? Ladies, do you think he did any of that?
Oh, hell no!
What that man said comes from a place of pain. That guy was a present father. He was the only father that kid ever knew. He was the one showing up to the kids' games. That's not something a man who doesn't care would do. What hurts him is having wasted 10 years of his life raising another man's child, while his woman, who only has one child, never even considered making him a father. I've always said it. If you get involved with a single mother and after a year she doesn't give you a child, walk away. That woman is using you as a beta provider, especially if you don't have kids of your own. Don't go raising Chad's kid, because women don't appreciate it. Look at how she's throwing him out. It's not that he wants her to choose between her child and him. It's that he wants a child of his own. That's why he's still talking about therapy. That man loved that woman, but she never loved him back. Believe me, when a woman loves you, she wants to build a family with you. Let's keep going.
No. Now, I realize that everyone does parenting differently. And I'm not saying that my way is the right way or the wrong way. I don't know that there really is like a hard line of right and wrong way of parenting. But my son is not my soon-to-be ex-husband's child. Now, if he were his child, that would be a different story. I would choose to put my husband first because it's a direct reflection of how a man and a wife should be, and it should be a good example. But because that's not the case, I am responsible for raising an 11-year-old boy to make sure that he turns out to be a decent human being. I'm responsible for giving him experiences. I'm responsible for taking care of him financially. I'm responsible for making sure that my child feels safe, secure, loved, and that he can come to me comfortably and talk to me about anything. That is my job. It is not my job to do that for a 33-year-old man. And contrary to popular belief, his happiness is not my responsibility. And anyone else, please listen. Ladies, gentlemen, everyone, your partner's happiness is their responsibility. The way that they feel about life and walk through life is a direct reflection of the work that they put in, what goes through their mind on a daily basis. And while you're there to support them as a partner, Their happiness, general in life, is not your responsibility. My 11-year-old child is 100% my responsibility, and I'm going to take that to the grave. Like I believe that fully, entirely, wholeheartedly. So I will never put a man above my 11-year-old child. And the next person I find, not that I'm really even thinking about that at all, will understand that and will understand what I've been through, or I will not be with anyone else. Because ultimately, I feel like all I really need right now is my son. He needs me and I need him, and that's just kind of where I'm at.
Fuck up, you crazy bitch whore!
You know what's the saddest part? This man is going to go through a divorce, lose 50% of his money, maybe even his house. But on top of that, he's going to lose his son. Because even though the boy isn't biologically his, he raised him, and he has no legal rights over that child. In other words, they had him playing house when the house was never his to begin with. A beta provider. And this woman knows it. She talks about him like that because she never truly loved him. He was the one who stepped up and took responsibility for Chad's mess, the man she did want to have a child with. Just listen to how she talks about him. But let's hear what another creator has to say about all this.
So my husband told me that he doesn't love his stepson and that most of the time he doesn't even like him. And what do you know? Now we're getting divorced. This is a conversation that we had on December 1st, our 10-year anniversary, when he told me that he really doesn't like my son and that he resents him for the fact that I put him first and that my son is priority to me above anything else. And you know what? That's okay, because that's never going to change. So on December 1st, when we had that conversation, that's when I knew I was done. Okay, that's when I knew I was finished. I'm like, I'm so gone. Like, you don't love this child that you have raised kind of for 10 years, this kid that you've seen grow up, this kid that is a direct reflection of me, because I have poured everything in my life into raising him properly. You're going to tell me that you don't love him and that you want me to put you, a 33-year-old man, first over raising an 11-year-old boy? Absolutely not. So on our 10-year anniversary, I told him, I said, yeah, I'm done. You need help. You need to go to therapy. My son is not my soon-to-be ex-husband's child. Now, if he were his child, that would be a different story. I would choose to put my husband first because it's a direct reflection of how a man and a wife should be, and it should be a good example.
You shouldn't have married him. And I might catch a lot of heat for this, but it's not because he's the problem. Just think about it, because what you said was that if he was your son's biological father, that you would be putting him first. But that's not the case. He's not his biological father. And even though he was there from almost the start, your son was 1 year old. That man lived 10 years in that household as a guest. He was never accepted as father or as husband. He was continuously reminded in all of the little things and all of the big things that you would choose your son over him in every single case. And not only would you silently just do what you thought what was best, you would throw it in his face, just like you are here, because your husband opened up, he was vulnerable, and he said that he had resentment towards a child. Like, he knows that's not right, but something caused it. And I would argue that it's not anything wrong within him. I would argue it is because of the dynamic of the relationship that you are a part of. And that's something that you need to be part of to fix, but you are obviously not, because you are blaming him and you are setting it up for him to fix his issue. Am I right, guys? Like, this is a very valid fear and valid reasoning as to why a man is not going to want to date a single mom.
Exactly. This guy was a guest. He was playing house. I'm telling you. Brothers, he was sleeping in separate rooms. There was no intimacy. He raised the kid for 10 years, and she never gave him a child. That man was boxed into a corner. He paid the bills, kept his mouth shut, and if he was lucky, maybe got a little intimacy. No wonder his mother blamed her. Just by the way she talks in the video, I'm 1000% sure she used to say those things to him. I can already picture the times he tried to discipline the kid and was reminded he wasn't the father. That's why I always say this the real father is the one who raises the child, not the one who makes him. Narrative from single mothers is just cheap marketing to reel in some clueless guy as a beta provider. He gave her 10 years of his resources. At least he's not in his 40s. At 33, he can still walk away and find a woman who actually wants to give him a child. Hopefully, he ends up with his lover. I'm sure she'd give him the family he deserves.
Women.
We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, the questions are for you. If a woman spends 10 years married and never considers giving her husband a child, did she really see him as a partner or just as a provider? Do you think a man who spends years raising another man's child should have priority and respect in the household, or is he always just a guest? If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Your support means a lot to us and keeps us motivated to keep creating more content. Stay tuned for the next video from the wall.